Food is fascinating. Have you ever walked through an aquarium, spied a strange-looking fish, and thought, I wonder what that tastes like? No? Well, I'm not going to apologize that I have, because Laios over here thinks about it all the time. And he's made it into a full adventure. If you don't know who this is, don't worry, I'll explain. Dungeon Meshi is definitely on the menu today. So let's talk about how we can sprinkle food with some cinematic flavor and bring it to your tabletop games. I think we can all agree that food is weird. It can be unsettling, smelly, nostalgic, mouth-watering, hunger-inducing, and even downright sexy. I mean, look at this. This is some quality food porn right here. As its infinitely varied appearance suggests, food is far more than just nourishment. It's memories and experiences. It holds cultural and historical significance. Battles have been fought and wars have been waged over our subject. Literally. Access to food shapes our lives, and in the macro sense, food brings life to its surroundings. But if we swap that lens and look at the minutiae, with just a touch of our favorite role-playing games, well, we bring life to the food. In the Monster Menu, a supplement for Dungeons & Dragons by Dave Penfilo, many intriguing dishes await an adventurous culinarian. It even veers into some morally questionable territory. Braised Sphinx tenderloin, smoked cloud giant, and angel wings. Let me tell you, they're not named for their shape. They all come with some flavor text, but perhaps my favorite one is where the food appears to take on a life of its own. Do not gaze long into the guts of a garistro. Sure, they're an unparalleled casing for some oversized tripe, but the intestines seem to rearrange as one watches, even while being cooked. This is some unnerving shit, but exactly what I'm talking about. It doesn't matter if it's a disagreeable intestine or a swarm of angry gingerbread people. Animating food elevates it from a simple role of an object to a character. But perhaps you're not really interested in animated gourmet. You're just looking for magical food with magical effects. If you actually ate that Garister tripe, you'd get some benefits for the next week. For that duration, you deal double damage to objects and structures and can perfectly recall any path you have ever traveled. Perchance if you're a Minotaur, then that labyrinthine recall becomes permanent. But if this dish wasn't properly prepared, you may still get those benefits, but in addition, you cannot speak or write anything other than Abyssal for the next 3 days, and let's hope you know it because it doesn't teach you. Really kind of puts you in a box here. This sort of thing adds a fun edge to food while still keeping it simple and easy enough to implement. But we can take things a step further by giving food the same love that alchemy often sees, by introducing both a fully fleshed out cooking and harvesting system. Welcome to Heliana's Guide to Monster Hunting. Undoubtedly based on one of my favorite games of all time, Monster Hunter World Iceborne. I mean, Heliana is literally a play on Celiana, Iceborne's hub. This guide provides a myriad of recipes which can all be made by passing specific DC checks. Yes, like every other recipe everywhere, but the nuances here is what makes this impactful. These materials have to be harvested from a monster, and if they're biodegradable, they're on a countdown before they rot. You don't want that to happen. Beyond the mechanics of potency and essence, which basically act as a power scale for the effects that these ingredients bestow when ingested, I find things get really interesting when it comes to the variation of said ingredients. There are 10 types of components, ranging from blood and bone all the way down to liver and spice. And these components can be attained from 14 different types of creatures, each which confers its own special effects. This level of complexity encourages us to hone in on every moment in this process. We feel the pressure of proper preparation from harvest to table. You don't want to be potentially bursting an eye like a boba while you attempt to pluck it from the skull of your trophy. That's why we scoop. This level of detail is on full cinematic display in the fabulous Dungeon Meshi, or Deliciousindungeon, a popular manga that was recently published in 2014 and reached a conclusion after 97 chapters, officially ending in September 2023. And lucky for us, it was recently translated to anime just this year. Laios, who I mentioned earlier, is always thinking about what something tastes like and how to cook it. This leads to many memorable scenes and some incredible inspiration for our games. To discuss some of this, I'm about to get into spoilers for Episode 3, Living Armor, and Episode 5, Snacks and Sorbet. So if you haven't seen those, pause this and go watch them. Seriously, you'll thank me later. Though you can just skip ahead to the next chapter. But if you have seen them or don't care about spoilers, let's get into it. I've certainly thought about how edible many monsters look, but when it comes to constructs, things that are typically bound by magic, I wasn't expecting to find a meal. In episode 3, the gang have to contend with a gallery of living armor, in which we find out that these are not enchanted by some wizard, but instead are being piloted by colonies of mollusk-like creatures. The official wiki categorizes this under the broader term shellfish, which includes both mollusks and crustaceans. These specific behaviors of the living armor colonies are based around socialization, finding other armor colonies and protecting their eggs. Not only is their care and preparation set into this meal of choice, but there is a story and living purpose for this creature in the world. Not to mention, it makes 3 incredible looking dishes. Delicious-in-Dungeon shows us that we don't always have to separate tracking, monster slaying, harvesting, and preparation, because in certain cases, we can do it all at once. In episode 7, the party gets harried by ghosts, which, outside of their undead status, are associated with their intensely cold presence. To combat this, Senshi, the party's cooking savant, prepares holy water to exorcise the ghosts, which in this instance translates to making a flare to beat back the ghosts into a second grave. This act freezes and churns the holy water until it becomes exorcism sorbet. By bringing life to food, we make it cinematic. But in extension, food also brings life to its surroundings. Monster Hunter World and its expansion, Iceborne, really help to show what this looks like. The entire structure of the game is built on a living, breathing ecosystem. We can literally watch the food chain at work, from the moss swine foraging for mushrooms, to the lowly great Jagras bullying Aptonoth because it literally gets bullied by everyone else. All the way to and beyond the invasive Deverjo, who, when first introduced, is terrifying. It literally uses other monsters as melee weapons. Yet, despite its fearsome nature, the Deverjo is colloquially referred to by the community as the pickle, which is oddly fitting given this discussion about food. The structure of the research commission in this new world is also brought to life by food, though in a less direct manner. Monster Hunter lore is expansive, but we can abridge this into a simple idea that we can adopt for our stories. An abundance of monsters leads to an abundance of food and materials. The commission uses every part of the monster they hunt. Nothing goes to waste. They are all about balance and keeping balance in the new world. This cycle of sustenance is the culture of the commission. Becoming a skilled hunter doesn't just mean getting good at fighting. You need to prepare by bringing the proper implements, components, and curatives. And you need to eat beforehand. Lots and lots of eating. The availability of resources, like food, shapes us. The commission can research, hunt, and build to their heart's content because they have the means to do so both in this moment and for the foreseeable future. But when famine hits and scarcity grows, that future becomes uncertain. Roles will change and priorities will shift from being passion-driven to survival-oriented. This is a very common theme that we see in apocalyptic stories. Resources are so limited that the culture is no longer cooperative, but it becomes me versus you, rather than both of us together. The examples can go on, but the idea stays the same. Food shapes our world. What food we have access to and how much influences our culture. In every aspect of society, there is some relationship to food. Our subject is so ingrained in everything we do that we just have to choose a particular moment to elevate to allow that cinematic quality to shine through. Remember, whether it's that strange fish in the aquarium or your favorite homemade dish from grandma, food is a powerful story device, but it's only as flavorful as you make it. So until I see you again, keep that imagination active and enjoy gaming.